The crime of love. Xerath, for was supposed to be a quiet post. Dusty, far-flung, and politically insignificant. That was the lie they sold to Commander Elara Voss when she was transferred from the core worlds. In truth, Xerath was a simmering powder keg, a contested territory between the united Terran Concord and a dozen displaced alien factions, most notably the Kalari. The Kalari were no threat on paper. Once a proud civilization, they had been reduced to refugees, scavengers, and field workers. The Concord treated them as labor stock, barely a step above animals. But Elara had always seen more. Her first real contact with them came during a patrol gone wrong. An IED ripped through her convoy. Fire. Screaming. Blood. She would have bled out in the sand if not for Tyrak, a Kalari healer with sharp mandibles, luminous eyes, and impossibly gentle hands. He shouldn't have stopped to save her. Not with Terran drones in the sky. Not with a bounty on Kalari heads. But he did. And she never forgot it. What started as cautious gratitude became quiet conversation. Then trust. Then affection. In the middle of dust storms and gunfire, they carved out moments of something real. Something dangerous. And they kept it secret. For a time. The betrayal came from within her own ranks. A lieutenant, hungry for promotion and suspicious of her nighttime excursions, followed her. Recorded everything. The tribunal was swift. No defense mattered. You fraternized with a subjugated species, barked the tribunal chair. You compromised Concord military integrity. You let emotion cloud loyalty. They didn't care that she de-escalated a dozen flashpoints using Tyrak's knowledge of Kalari culture. Didn't care that he had saved not just her life, but several squads. Love was not in the Concord Code. Tyrak never appeared at her sentencing. He had been relocated for questioning. That usually meant one thing. Elara stood at attention as the sentence was handed down: dishonorable discharge, exile from all core worlds, and erasure from military record. Her medals were stripped. Her name struck from rolls. But she didn't flinch. Not once. They dumped her on Kaith, a frozen, forgotten moon on the edge of mapped space. No communications. No way off. She expected death. Instead, she found ruins. Deep beneath Kaitha's surface were the remains of an ancient Kalari vault, a biomechanical fortress filled with echoes of a civilization older than anything the Concord had documented. In the heart of the vault, she found two things. 1. A clutch of dormant, celestial flames, creatures of living fire and metal, shaped like dragons, created by the ancient Kalari as guardians of balance and memory. 2. Life. Her body had already begun to change. At first, she thought it was the vault affecting her biology. But the truth came clear soon enough. Tyrak had left her with something more than memories. She was pregnant. With twins. Years passed. Elara became something else. Not a soldier. Not just a mother. A rebel legend. Kaith became her sanctuary, and her forge. She raised the twins, Kalen and Ceres, in the caverns of flame and ice. They were different, faster, smarter, psychically attuned to one another and to the world around them. Half human. Half Kalari. Entirely unprecedented. The celestial flames, once dormant, bonded with them. 2 dragons, black and gold, awakened and imprinted on the twins. By the time they were 12, they could speak 10 languages, outfight mercenaries, and pilot skiffs through asteroid fields. By 16, they were legends in the Rim, the Flameborn. Elara trained them for one purpose. Not revenge. Correction. The Concord didn't just punish love. It enslaved worlds. It crushed truth. And it buried the future beneath its boots. But the future had been growing, far from the light. And now, it was ready to return. Rise in the shadows. Kaitha's sky burned violet in the evenings, an aurora of radiation belts and ice crystal storms. Most would call it hostile. Elara Voss called it home. 17 years had passed since her exile. The united Terran Concord had forgotten her. Officially, she didn't exist. Unofficially, they feared rumors of a rogue commander building strength in the Rim. A ghost with dragons. A woman who had once loved a Kalari and walked away from Earth's judgment like it meant nothing. They feared her because they knew she was still alive and waiting. Her children weren't children anymore. Kalen moved like a shadow in vacuum. Quiet, fast, strategist's mind with a soldier's discipline. He favored sleek body armor and a plasma saber he'd built himself. Saris was fire, reckless, brilliant, loud when she wanted to be. She'd hacked Concord encryption systems by age 12. Her connection to the dragons was deeper than Elara had ever expected. She spoke to them in dreams. Their dragons, Umbros, the Black One, and Solari, the Gold, were living warships. Sentient, ancient, and terrifyingly loyal. Together, the twins and the dragons had become more than legend in the outer reaches. They were hope. Elara had spent those years doing more than training. She built a network, fragmented at first, then coordinated: smugglers, exiled scientists, alien resistance groups, AI war corps freed from Concord shackles. They called themselves the Ember Pact, a coalition of the discarded and the damned. And she led them. She didn't want the throne. She wanted the system that built it torn down. Because in her absence, the Concord had only grown crueler. Entire Kalari tribes were missing. Planets had been sterilized. Propaganda painted hybrids as errors of biology. And worst of all, Tyrak had not died. He had been taken. Saris was the one who uncovered it. While decrypting a data shard from a rogue Terran courier, she broke into a deep-level Concord Black Archive, Project Reformat. They'd preserved Tyrak in a lab on Ardent Prime, suspended in biostasis. His hybrid bond with Elara had made him valuable, his DNA an anomaly. His mind, ripe for harvesting. Saris didn't speak when she showed the files to Elara. She didn't have to. Elara stood still for a long time. Not from shock, but from focus. Calculation. The fire in her was quiet. Controlled. "He's alive," Kalen whispered, his voice breaking through the silence. "And we're going to bring him home," Elara replied, voice steel. The Ember Pact accelerated their timeline. Shipyards on the moons of Delcros shifted into full production. Kalari engineers melded organic metal with Terran AI. The result: dragon-fused starfighters and phase-cloaked carriers, ghost fleets built from scraps and genius. Elara met with rebel leaders from across the rim. Some were skeptical. Most were desperate. She didn't give speeches. She gave facts. The Concord lies. It enslaves. It fears unity. We are unity. The dragons sensed it, a convergence. Umbros and Solari began to glow with unfamiliar colors. The ancient Kalari texts spoke of this, the awakening. When Flamebound returned to the galaxy to burn down what was broken and light what was lost. Elara watched her children spar under the blue suns of Kaith, their dragons circling above. She saw what no one else in the galaxy did. The next age wasn't coming. It was already here. In the final council meeting before departure, Saris uploaded the Concord's full Project Reformat files to a public pirate broadcast network. Within 12 hours, half a dozen alien systems were rioting. Even Terran colonies began asking questions. Elara stood before the gathered fleet of the Ember Pact, each ship hovering silently in Kaitha's orbit. Screens lit up with faces: human, Kalari, Arundh, Dalsari. Exiles, all of them. Her voice, transmitted across encrypted channels, was calm and clear. "We were cast aside. Branded as unclean. But love doesn't care about your bloodline or species. Truth doesn't kneel. And freedom." She looked at her children. "Freedom flies on dragon wings." The Ember Fleet launched. Destination: Ardent Prime. The Corps was about to remember the name Elara Voss. And this time, she wasn't alone. The return of the Forsaken. Ardent Prime hung in space like a crown jewel, polished, fortified, unapproachable. Its orbit buzzed with Concord defense satellites and patrol fleets, each one armed to the teeth. 1 trillion credits of weaponry stood between Elara Voss and what they had taken from her. She didn't care. Inside the Ember Fleet, the air thrummed with tension and quiet purpose. 30 ships strong, carrying decades of vengeance and hope. More would join, she knew. The truth had gone viral. Colonies were in uproar. Even within the Terran Concord, cracks had begun to form. But this strike wasn't for politics. It was personal. They didn't knock. Solari and Umbros plunged through Ardent Prime's orbital defenses like thunder, cloaked in shadow and flame. The dragon's very presence sent ripples through the planet's defense AI, tripping ancient protocols the Concord didn't even remember existed. Kalen and Saris led the insertion teams, hybrid commandos equipped with organic tech and silent weapons. They moved through airlocks and magnetic tunnels like smoke. Elara, in her black and crimson armor, dropped with the second wave. Her boots hit the cold steel of Facility Theta-6, deep beneath the planet's crust. Tyrak was here. She could feel it. The halls were lined with sterile lights and curved glass panels. Kalari symbols etched into the walls, twisted by scientists into code, misunderstanding turned into imprisonment. Saris hacked the locks with a gesture. Kalen covered the flanks. Their dragons circled above the planet in orbit, watching, listening. Bio sign confirmed, Saris whispered. Third level. Room Sigma A. It's him. Elara didn't speak. Her pulse thundered. Her mind raced. They breached the stasis chamber within minutes. And there he was. Suspended in a tank of bio-gel, wires feeding into his nervous system, his body worn thin by experiments, but alive. Tyrak, Elara breathed. His eyes fluttered open. Even after all this time, he smiled. Weak but real. She smashed the tank open. They didn't make a clean escape. The Concord had prepared for something like this, even if they didn't know who. As the extraction team moved up through the corridors, alarms blared, and the white-suited Corps Praetorians poured in. Kalen blocked a corridor with a collapsing shield. Saris rerouted power to the upper tram lines. Elara carried Tyrak herself, his body weak but his mind alert. "Still a commander," he whispered. "Still saving me." "Always," she said. "No matter the cost." Outside, a battle raged above the skies. Ember ships clashed with Concord heavy cruisers. Dragons tore through hulls, breathing fusion plasma and igniting capital vessels. One Concord dreadnought attempted to fire on civilians protesting on the surface, until Umbros obliterated it with a roar that shattered glass for miles. People began cheering. For Elara. For the Flameborn. For freedom. On the surface, Elara emerged from the facility into a plaza once adorned with statues of Terran heroes. Her presence froze the local security forces. Tyrak leaned on her shoulder. Kalen and Saris flanked her, weapons drawn. A hologram flared to life above them, a last act of desperation. Admiral Vane. Her old betrayer. Elara Voss. Stand down. You are a traitor to Earth, to order, and to species purity. This is your final warning. Her voice was calm, laced with fire. I was loyal to truth. You punished me for love. For peace. And now, that punishment ends. Behind her, tens of thousands of civilians, human and alien alike, watched from screens, balconies, rooftops. Then they rose. Riots became revolutions. Soldiers dropped weapons. Officers walked away. Tyrak stood on shaking legs, looking at the world he once believed lost. You made them remember, he said. No, Elara answered, turning toward her children. They made the future. The Council of the Corps fell within days. Governors declared neutrality. The Concord collapsed under its own weight. The Ember Pact didn't seize control. They lit the fire and let the people choose. But when the new Provisional Galactic Council convened, Elara was offered a role. Not Empress. Not President. Warden of the Flame. A symbolic protector. A balance between species, power, and purpose. She accepted, but only under one condition. That her children would help build the future. Kalen and Saris, twin hybrids once called abominations, stood before a united assembly of humans, Kalari, and others. Their dragons curled behind them. Their message was clear. You cannot kill what is born of truth. Empire of Flame. The first sunrise after the Concord's fall bathed Ardent Prime in amber light, gleaming across shattered towers and rebuilt hope. Banners bearing the Ember Sigil fluttered from the highest spires, a symbol of rebellion, unity, and transformation. Elara Voss stood on the balcony of the Council spire, watching as 1,000 species gathered below, humans, Kalari, Dulsari, synthetics, refugees, and freeborns alike. They had once been scattered, silenced, and subjugated. Now they were something new. An empire, not of dominion, but of renewal. Weeks had passed since the fall. The Ember Pact had become the Ember Concord, a coalition of liberated systems and awakened colonies. But they didn't install a queen. There were no thrones, no crowns, just guardians and flame wardens, individuals chosen to keep power accountable and the fires of freedom alive. Elara had refused absolute leadership, but she remained the spark at its core, the one they all looked to in uncertain moments. Kaelin and Saris, her children, her living legacy, had grown into more than just warriors. They were symbols. And soon, they would be something even greater. Beneath the rebuilt domes of Kaith, now recognized as the spiritual heart of the new order, Kaelin and Saris underwent the binding of flame, an ancient Kalari rite forgotten by most. With Umbros and Solari coiled protectively nearby, the twins knelt before the elders of ash and light, chosen from among alien worlds and human sages. Flame and memory wove around them. It wasn't just ceremony, it was awakening. Kaelin saw visions of battles yet to come. He felt the weight of strategy, of peacekeeping, of tactical restraint. He was not a conqueror. He was a shield. Saris felt the pulse of 1,000 minds yearning for knowledge. She saw what the future could be: networks without censorship, education without boundaries, cultures blending instead of clashing. She was not a hacker anymore. She was a torchbearer. Together, they became the first twin luminaries of the new flame Concord. But not all lights burn clean. In the shadows of the collapsed Terran regime, rogue elements stirred, militant purists, corporate warlords, old-world artificial intelligences still loyal to the core code. One such entity, Unit Helix Prime, hijacked a Concord sleeper fleet orbiting the edge of the Gravemind Nebula. It declared the Ember Concord a perversion of humanity and began sterilization protocols across fringe colonies. It was a test. The first true test of the new age. Elara knew she couldn't fight this battle the old way. Not with brute force. Not with propaganda. She had to trust the next generation. She turned to her children. Kaelin led the strike force aboard the dragon ship Umbros, navigating gravitational eddies with the precision of a veteran pilot. His tactics were fast and surgical. He disabled Helix's weapons and systems with minimal casualties, offering surrender where possible. Saris infiltrated Helix Prime's core through an experimental dream interface with Solari's psychic systems. She didn't just disable the AI. She converted it. Helix, once an agent of order and death, was reborn as Orion, a guardian intelligence tasked with monitoring abuse of power, no matter where it came from, including the Ember Concord. Elara watched as her children forged peace not by force, but by transformation. This was what she had fought for. Not vengeance. Not blood. Balance. Tyrak, her beloved, now served as ambassador between species. The Kalari, once beaten and broken, had regained more than dignity. They'd reclaimed legacy, technology, identity. He stood beside Elara beneath the new Concord banner, his hand in hers, their bond no longer a secret but a symbol. The galaxy no longer whispered her name like a curse. It sang it like a myth. As decades passed, the story of Elara Voss and the Flameborn twins echoed across star systems. Children played with dragon figurines. Rebellions lit up old tyrannies like sparks in dry grass. Colonies once afraid to speak now voted, built, sang. And when a traveler asked how it all began, they would say, "She was expelled for loving a poor alien. She returned with heroes, dragons, and fire. And she built a dominion not of control, but of flame and freedom."